All right, welcome back to Book Nook Brews. This is episode 29, where we'll be covering the first set of chapters of the Book of September, The Puzzle Master by Danielle Trussoni. We'll be covering chapters 1 through 19 of this new book of the month.
Yeah.
I guess for brews, we don't really have anything at the moment. We did have coffee in the morning. We went to a new coffee shop. You got yourself a lavender mocha latte, if I remember. No, you changed it.
I switched over to their toasted marshmallow latte.
Yeah.
Which slapped. It was really good.
And I got a cookie latte. It was good. Just didn't know what cookie it was. But
yeah, it was more caramel than anything.
Yeah, it was still good though.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we start off by reading the blurb.
Yeah.
Of this puzzle master. Let's see. Did I read this blurb before we got it? Because I already see a big word on here that would have had me like iffy on it had I read this, but no, you just gave it to me because, ooh, pretty cover. And now we're reading a book that I'm regretting.
I gave you, I don't know if I read the blurb to you when I picked the book out, when we were at the bookstore, and you're like, eh.
I don't know. Either way, if I would have read this, I don't know if we would be reading this right now. But it doesn't look like I remember this, which is a problem. Next time you hand me one because of a cool cover, like, okay, cool. Let me read the blurb first. All right, let's see. All the world is a puzzle, and Mike Brink, a celebrated and ingenious puzzle constructor, understands its patterns like no one else. Once a promising Midwestern football star, Brink was transformed by a traumatic brain injury that caused a rare medical condition, acquired savant syndrome. The injury left him with a mental superpower. He can solve puzzles in ways ordinary people can't, but it also left him deeply isolated, unable to fully connect with other people. Everything changes when Brink meets Jess Price, a woman serving 30 years in prison for murder who hasn't spoken a word since her arrest 5 years earlier. When Price draws a perplexing puzzle, her psychiatrist believes that it will explain her crime and calls Brink to solve it. What begins as a desire to crack an alluring cipher quickly morphs into an obsession with Price herself. She soon reveals that there is something more urgent and more dangerous behind her silence, thrusting Brink into a hunt for the truth. The quest takes Brink through a series of interlocking enigmas, but the heart of the mystery is the God puzzle, a cryptic ancient prayer circle created by the 13th century Jewish mystic Abraham Abulafia. As Brink navigates a maze of clues and his emotional entanglement with Price becomes more intense, he realizes that there are more powerful forces at work that he cannot escape. Ranging from an upstate New York women's prison to 19th century Prague to the secret rooms of Pierpont Morgan Library, The Puzzle Master is a tantalizing, addictive thriller in which humankind, technology, and the future of the universe itself are at stake.
So it is a thriller.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. For those, well, I guess everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like for those that don't know, but like here nobody knows. I am not the biggest fan of thriller I am. But horror itself and stuff like that, not really. Thriller is okay because I guess like A Quiet Place is a thriller,
Yes.
right? And stuff like that, stuff that has me in like suspense and stuff like that, I enjoy. But horror and supernatural and all that kind of stuff is very iffy for me. I enjoy it. Like we go to Halloween Horror Nights and all that kind of stuff, and it's cool, whatever. But that doesn't mean it's not in my head 24/7, right? Like
Yeah.
it's something I enjoy, but it's also something I'm very weary about.
Mm-hmm.
I guess weary is the word for it.
So I guess Stephen King books are off the list of reading.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, he's the one that wrote it, right?
Yeah.
The
and
movie.
many others.
The movie was fine.
Pet Cemetery.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, no. I
But
watched the movie.
like it, the movie itself was, creepy. Yeah, but it was watchable for me.
But I think one thing is looking at it, another thing is reading it. The
Yeah.
descriptions can get you very like creeped
And I
out.
think that's what like is getting me in this book, because like, for example, if I were reading it versus watching it, it got me scared, but because of like the jump scares and the loud noises and stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
The book isn't going to do that, but the book has to do its best to give you that feeling through words, through description.
Yeah.
And that's what could get even worse.
No, yeah, and I agree. What I've been told, and I have a couple of Stephen King books I just haven't gotten around to, hence a lot of other books haven't gotten around to. But Stephen King books, I've heard that he's really good for his horror, his description. It's like he's been recognized for that. So maybe, we'll test the waters with this thriller.
I guess we can start with the recap so I can speak more on what is bothering me about this.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts for this so far from what we read. So we are reading my recap. So there's going to be, unfortunately, tense changes and many stuttering. So here we go. So chapter 1, we are in the date of December 24th, 1909. It is a letter from someone unknown apologizing for something he has done. Chapter 2, we're going to be on the main timeline of the book, which is June 9th, 2022. Mike Brink is known for his work as a puzzleist. One day, Dr. Tessely Moses, she is the head psychologist at an all-women's correction facility, calls Mike over to look at a puzzle from an inmate. He follows Dr. Moses into her office and solves her Rubik's Cube, and we learn that his ability to solve puzzles is something instinctive for him. Afterwards, she hands him a piece of paper with the drawing of a puzzle. Chapter 3. On the paper was a large circle drawn in black ink with radial shots from the circle like a sun. The outer edge of the circle was lined with numbers 1 through 72. At the center, there were a series of Hebrew letters. Brink's mind immediately wanted to solve it, but the puzzle, if it was one, was incomplete. Only 10% was filled with numbers or symbols. This puzzle was drawn by a writer and convicted murderer, Jess Price. She had been accused of murdering a man in a Gilded Age mansion. After she was arrested, she refused to speak during her trial and was convicted of manslaughter. She drew that puzzle and told Dr. Moses to give Brink the puzzle. Before the murder, Price seemed stable, but after all of this, she is suffering from an array of mental health issues. Dr. Moses gave her a notebook to write in as therapy, and all the notebook has are numbers, shapes, grids, and lists of words. It's as if she's living in a puzzle. She has solved all the puzzle Brink has created. Dr. Moses asked Brink to meet Price, and he agreed so long as a coin toss allows them. Heads, he meets her. Tails, he goes home. Chapter 4. The coin landed on heads. Dr. Moses left to grab Price, and as Brink waited for her return, we find out that he suffered from a traumatic brain injury from a football game. While he never showed regular symptoms of a traumatic brain injury, his mind started to see patterns in everything. The black and white grid flooring of the room was now a chessboard, a crossboard, and then a grid of numbers. Puzzles would keep appearing in his mind, fade, and then come back. When he told his mother called it a gift that he can either use or ignore it, but he can't hide from it. Chapter 5. Price came into the room and Brink began to ask her questions, but she wouldn't answer. Brink told her that after his injury, he saw an ancient mathematical square, the Lo Shu square drawn thousands of years ago. He has no clue why and still doesn't till this day. He told Price she can talk to him without using words too, so she drew a hangman picture with 5 lines underneath. After a few tries, he got T at the beginning at the end of the word and he immediately figured it out. He told Price that she wants to know if she can trust him. He promised her to do everything he can to help her. She grabbed a clean page, wrote something, and then scabbed her fingernails to have a drop of blood fall onto the page. She gave him the page and then kisses him. He returns the kiss, overpowered by a feeling, and then the guard tells him that they can't have physical contact. Chapter 6. Brink went to the prison library to decipher what Price had given him. On the paper she wrote, "Thus we eat red apples, every wonderful kind. Pink lady, Hokuto, early gold, Liberty, Macintosh." At first, his mind tried to connect this riddle to numbers after he saw the blood on specific letters. Then he realized she wouldn't connect with numbers, but with words because she is a writer. This was a key to unlock a message. He unscrambled the words, and the message was, Dr. Wraith knew, and they killed him. Chapter 7. Brink went back to Dr. Moses, who is Tessely, and asked her if she found anything important from Price's old therapist, Dr. Wraith. Tessely didn't know anything of importance, but she did say she could take a look again, especially at his non-digital notes. He asked her how Dr. Wraith died and told her that Price believes he was murdered. However, Dr. Wraith died due to a car accident where his car hit a patch of ice and slid over the guardrail. Brink asked to see Price again, and Tessely said she would see what she could do. Chapter 8. Brink checked into a motel and did some research on Jess Price to get to know her more. She was convicted of killing her boyfriend, Noah Cook. She went to trial and jail without telling anyone about what occurred that night. Chapter 9. Brink had a dream about Price coming to him and placing a key in his hands after they shared a passionate kiss. She asked him to take the key as he'll need it to let her out. She asked him to keep the key, and when he finds the door they're looking for, to use the key to open it. Which essentially he has a sexual dream about her. That's the main point. Chapter 10. Brink had been diagnosed with sudden acquired savant syndrome. Only 30 people in the world had it, and each at varying levels. Brink has spatial and mechanical savantism. The injury also gave him photographic memory and allowed him to excel in school. However, the only thing he really doesn't excel in is relationships, as he isn't really good at reading emotions. Chapter 11. Cam Putney was a prison guard that was hired to watch over Price, protect her, and report everything he saw concerning her. He had warned Dr. Wraith about Price. Jess Price was an important woman and was the keeper of something precious and rare. No one can know what she's hiding. He warned Dr. Wraith, but the man didn't listen. Cam got closer to Price's cell and heard her mumble in her sleep, "Hurry up, follow me, promise." Chapter 12. Brink went back went back to the prison and followed Tessely to the basement where Dr. Wraith kept his other set of notes on Jessica Price. The notes unveiled that Price has nightmares of a woman and claims she hurts Price. She would wake up at night and beg the guards to take her away, but reportedly no one has ever seen anyone in her cell. As Dr. Wraith investigated more, he found that there are powerful people behind us, people who don't want anyone to know the truth. He began to think that Price wasn't the only one in danger. And then he repeated the same thing Tessely told Brink the day they met. There are times when I'm with her when I don't know how to put this exactly, afraid, more than afraid, terrified, like I'm in the presence of something bigger than me, something dangerous. On the next page, Tessely discovers something more, but doesn't share it with Brink yet, telling him to go meet with Price at the library at noon. Chapter 13. Tessely and Brink headed to the library, but Brink made an excuse to go to the bathroom, when really he wanted to go back to the basement to read Price's journal again. In the journal, he found a puzzle he created in 2009 as a 19-year-old and sophomore in MIT. But no one was supposed to know about it. As he continues to examine the puzzle, a blonde guard approaches him and tells him he needs to go back up. He's far away from the psych's office. Chapter 19. Brink meets up with Price and he asks her how he got the puzzle that no one was supposed to know about. That puzzle had meant something and no one was supposed to know how it even got there. He told her that if she had sent her that puzzle, then he would have never come. However, Price finishes his sentence the first time Brink hears her speak in person. That's when Price tells him that she needs him to keep his promise, and he remembered the smell of the forest and the beautiful moment they shared. That's when Brinks realized she referred to the dream he had of her last night. Chapter 15. Tessely pulled Brink out of the room and informed him that his clearance had been revoked. Turned out that the governor called Tessely's supervisor to remove him from the premise and revoked his clearance. After she left him with Price, she looked at the blue folder they got from the basement and found that inside were photocopies of the investigation into Noah Cook's murder. Tessely tried to access more of the documents online, but couldn't access it. She contacted IT, and within 5 minutes, her supervisor called her to tell her that the governor called to have Brink removed from the facility. She also felt that someone had deleted the footage of Brink with Price from the other day because the head of security couldn't locate that footage when Tessely asked him to see it. Tessely gives him a flash drive and tells him to look at it and to call her once he's done. Brink informed Tessely of a scar that Price has that she has never seen nor has been documented as well. Chapter 16. He left that prison with more questions than answers, and he won't stop until he figures out the puzzle. What Price had told him, Dr. Wraith knew, and they killed him, wasn't just a message, but a warning. She knew that all of this was going to unfold the way it did, and she chose Brink because she knew that once he started a puzzle, he wouldn't quit. As Brink drove away from the prison, he noticed the Tesla was following behind him. He pulled into a dirt road and stopped his car until the Tesla sped by. Chapter 17. The puzzle Mike Brink created on November 2009 had been done a week after his father died of cancer. Brink had come home from MIT when his father was in his final stage of cancer. One day when Brink went to the UPS store to ship some things to East, a man named Gary Sand approached him and made him an offer that would change his life. His assignments were to log into an anonymous message board with a personal key Sand gave him, and he would find cryptograms, ciphers, pages of letters and numbers, examine them, and reveal the message they stored. Brink would then return this back to Sand through his encrypted key. Strange things started to happen when his online puzzle forum where people were trying to figure out his identity. Someone had gotten close, and that is where Brink wanted to stop this. He wanted to stay anonymous. He decided if he was going to reveal his identity, it would be to the one who aced most of his challenging puzzles. He constructed a puzzle with his name contained inside it and published it on a day no one would expect, and then take it down less than an hour afterward. The solution to the key was his personal 14-digit key he used with Gary Sand. Before he took it down, he saw that 2 people had downloaded it and didn't think much of it. Afterward, he deleted his profile from all sites. The next day, Sand showed up on his doorstep and told him there was an unidentified login last night into the NSA site using Brink's code. Brink explained what he did with the puzzle, and the 2 ended their business relations that moment. Chapter 18. When Brink was back at the motel, his door was busted open and everything in it. The room was turned inside out. He was nervous about where his dog Connie had gone, but luckily she was safe and ran to him as soon as she saw him. Brink knew that there's more to what occurred, and has a funny feeling that the bodyguard at the prison is somewhat involved in all of this. He remembered the triangle tattoo he saw on his neck and looked up the description of what it could mean. It was a Pythagorean triangle that was associated with the Freemason. Brink drove away with Connie, grabbed something to eat, and began to read Jess's journal. Chapter 19, July 7th, 2017. Jess Price had taken a job to house sit a very expensive and big home. The owner of the house had passed on, and the family was waiting to sell it off, so they just needed someone to take care of it while they were gone. Bill, the house manager, greeted her when she got there and gave her a tour of the place. Then they arrived at a room that was kind of creepy, to say the least. The room was covered in porcelain dolls. The owner of the house, Aurora, did not have kids, nor did she marry. However, she did have a younger brother, but he died of suicide, or so they say. Aurora found his body and was devastated. She locked herself in the room. No one has entered that room in decades except for the odd repairman and Mandy, her housekeeper. Aurora spent her life alone, surrounded by silk roses and porcelain dolls. And that's how this week's recap ends. So what are your thoughts?
Well, first you had mentioned there was something about a sexual dream. When was that? I don't remember that at all.
When Jess was in his dreams.
I know there was a dream part, but I don't remember anything sexual about it.
I mean, they were essentially making out, and one of them had taken off their clothes.
Like, was that the part where, like, she asked him to, like, follow him and all that?
They were in the forest, yeah. They had made out in that dream.
Oh. I have a few opinions on this. One being, I hope this doesn't end up getting religious. I don't, because they're already bringing up the fact that triangle, that like the triangle that the guard has on his neck, the one that's supposedly protecting Jess Price, is a triangle that is involving Pythagoras, and that it supposedly spells out something like that. It spells out Jehovah, God's name.
I remember that.
And I'm already like, I hope this doesn't become like a whole like God thing, like, because I know like even in the blurb it was like, oh, this puzzle is about God, like the God puzzle,
yeah,
or something like that. And I'm hoping this doesn't end up being a religious thing where it's like, oh, this this deeper force or whatever that he's feeling or whatever is I don't know, like the devil or something like that, right? And then these people are follower of God or something like that, and they're trying to, because what I'm assuming is Jess Price is possessed, right? I think it's safe to say that.
I don't think so.
What do you think it is?
We don't know much about her right now, but I do feel like she suffered from something traumatic in that house when she was house sitting.
You don't think it's possession?
I don't think it's possession.
I think it's possession, and the same thing happened to Frankie, that lady's brother. And then it has to do with that room and the dolls and all that kind of stuff.
Interesting. I'm thinking Frankie might have something similar to what Brink has. Some sort of savant syndrome. What was it? Advance?
Wait,
or
Frankie?
Is that not the name of the brother?
The one that she found dead?
I think he might be the initial journal entry.
Oh, okay.
Because he apologized. He's like, I am so sorry. I know what I did was wrong, but it's something I had to do. Something along those lines. That's what the first chapter was. And it was in the 1909. And
the estate looked very old and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So I'm thinking that's around the house owner's time period when she was young. I think, unless maybe.
Yeah. So I think what could be happening here is, so now another theory popped up in my head right now. So Jess Price, the reason I think she's like quote unquote possessed is because Mike Brink started seeing another person instead of Jess Price. Like, the person in his dreams is not Jess.
It is.
No, it's not. He said this person is a different woman. And then when they were in the library, the person that was sitting across from him was the woman from his dreams, not Jess. And then the scar on the hand, he asked Dr. Moses, it's like, what is that scar on her hand? Dr. Moses like, she doesn't have any scars. He was seeing somebody else. This person is within Jess Price trying to get through to Mike Brink.
Interesting. Oh.
The person in his dreams is connecting. Like, that was the point of the kiss. I know you didn't mention that in your recap either, when I wanted to bring that up too. The kiss wasn't just a kiss. She connected with Mike Brink like that. And it was described through the kiss. He was going deeper and deeper into a puzzle.
Yeah.
When that was happening, and which is why he kissed her back. The more he was involved in it, the more deeper he went into that puzzle, or deeper within. It sounds weird, but within her, right? And that's why he wanted to keep going, and that's when the guard split him up.
Yeah.
I think the woman he is seeing within Jess Price, that woman is possessing Jess Price. Maybe not in a bad way.
Oh, I see what
right?
you mean.
She's trying to get through to something.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm assuming is the murder with Jess Price is similar to what happened to that woman inside her. Yeah. And what I'm assuming has to do with Frankie's murder now, right? There's that connection now as well. Now the theory that just popped up into my head when you said that was, okay, let's say Frankie does have what Mike Brink has, right? The girl inside Jess Price is what Jess is currently going through. So Frankie was trying to help the woman that is inside Jess Price, but the same thing happened to him that happened to the therapist, right? He knew about what was going on with her, whatever. He was trying to help. He's dead, but it looked as a suicide, supposedly, right? The therapist knew what was going on. He died, supposedly went off
by a
ice,
freak accident.
Right? And now Mike Brink knows about it. He's getting involved. And now he has a Tesla chasing him, has people running into his hotel room, whatever. There's people looking for him now, right? what I'm assuming is, so that woman who had that similar thing as Jess Price is now living through Jess Price. That's the whole mental thing that's going on with her now, right?
Yeah, because she was fine before.
Exactly.
Showed no signs of mental instability,
Exactly.
nothing.
Until she went to that house.
Yeah. So something went down in that house.
Yeah, and
she was
what
house
I'm
sitting.
assuming is it has to do with that porcelain room. There's no way. You're not going to mention a whole room of dolls, and then you walk in there and they're all looking at you, supposedly. And then the person that owns that house right now, not owns, but like runs it, right? He's selling it.
The manager.
He's like, only certain people can come in here for pictures, and then that door or that room stays locked. You're not going to have a room like that in a book or a story or a movie and not be the main room where shit goes down.
Yeah.
Right? And so it has to do with that. And I'm assuming that is probably where she found her brother's body as well, in that room, which
Her
is why
brother?
Frankie. That's where that body was found or whatever. Right,
yeah.
from before.
From the actual owner. Yeah.
So I'm assuming that could be a reason why she has her whole collection in there or stuff like that, right? But back to what I was saying is maybe now, like the reason that letter was in the beginning is because that guy started something, right? And it affected this woman that we are now living through, Jess Price, right? And maybe Frankie does have the same thing as Mike, and now he's living through Mike, or it's something similar. Like these plot lines are like parallel. Right?
I see what you mean. Yeah.
And it's similar ways, and that's why the woman inside Jess Price is looking specifically for Mike Brink, because it's similar to what Frankie had going on. And that's why the kiss and all that kind of stuff. And she's trying to connect through Mike Brink specifically, who is the one person that can get her out of this.
Well, this goes even further back as well, because think about it. Mike Brink had mentioned that in 2009, when he uploaded that puzzle that contained his name within it, which was his encrypted code, dumbass, worst thing you could have done. Yeah. Why would you use that?
He didn't realize it at the time.
Such a dummy.
It was just because his encrypted code was his name, but in numbers, right? That's what. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's how he. And then that when he uploaded the puzzle, 2 people downloaded it.
Yeah.
So who are those 2 people? And one of them somehow knew that was an encrypted key for the NSA.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things going on right now.
Yeah.
There's somehow I feel that NSA theme might come back eventually too. And then hopefully we get to find out who the 2 people are that downloaded his puzzle that one night.
Because I'm assuming it's not Jess Price.
You don't think so?
Because the puzzle was in her journal, but I don't think it was her that downloaded it. I think because they never said anything about her being interested in puzzles before she started going insane, right? She started doing puzzles once she got into the prison. So I'm assuming maybe that puzzle got brought to her and it was solved, and that's how that person got the codes, but they left it in the journal or whatever,
Plus,
right?
the guard did mention that Jess Price contains something very precious and rare within her.
Yeah. Which I'm assuming is what that puzzle within her leads to. There's something bigger that group needs.
So we could be looking at a cult.
I think so. Except especially with the markings and stuff. I think so. But apparently that triangle resembles Jehovah or whatever. So I'm hoping it's not this religious cult, and that's where that book leads to. I mean, so far it has me hooked, but with that mention, it was like, okay, let's see where this goes. I don't want this to end up being a, God versus devil type of thing. And
see, I'm like, the book has me intrigued. I will say I got put off by the kisses at the very beginning, and for me, what I had assumed is like a sexual dream.
See, I didn't even take it as that. I didn't read anything that was like, whoa. That's, to me, it's because I think you also missed that connection of the kiss not being just a like a lover's kiss.
But see, that's the part where I guess, but to me, when I read, oh, I'm overcome by something like even powerful that I need to go after more. It just, for me, it's a bunch of romantic lingo that I've seen in books before. So it's like, we're only in chapter 5. How are you already attracted to some inmate?
But he's not attracted. He has a connection and he feels terrified when he's around her. And there's something bigger presence when he's with her.
Yeah.
But I don't think it as attraction.
Okay.
I think it has to do with that whole quote unquote. I keep calling it possession because I don't know what else to call it. But it's like that person within her, that puzzle within her, is because of something bigger, and that is what is giving him that feeling.
Yeah, it does make sense because both the doctor and Tessie have said that when they're around her, they feel something more than just afraid. They feel terrified. They feel like they're around something bigger.
Yeah.
Something dangerous.
Yeah.
So
that's where I'm thinking, like, what could possibly, like, that. I think that's what's leading me to the word possession.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the whole dangerous vibe that they get. And it could be a puzzle. Maybe it's not a good puzzle that's inside her. And they're trying to get Mike Brink to solve it, to open the doors to, I don't know, whatever. I'm not going to get into that. But maybe it could be a good puzzle trying to help the woman that's inside or whatever. Or it could be a bad puzzle. But obviously, he doesn't read it that way, right? To him, it's a puzzle. To everybody else, it's this dangerous feeling around it. But to him, it's just, oh, let's solve this puzzle. And he's going to try to, like, maybe the person or even Jess knows that he'll probably ignore all of that just by it being a puzzle. And is just trying to be like, oh, help me, follow me, do this. You're telling me you're having a dream with a woman in a forest saying, follow me, and you're going to fucking, oh, yeah, it's a puzzle, let's do it. No, dude. I am waking up in that instant and locking everything. I'm like, I am saying right here, thank you. That whole thing is just like, that's when I started feeling that whole, okay, this is probably a horror book when she started saying, follow me. Like, I started reading that in a high-pitched voice with echoes, and I'm like, absolutely not. That's not what I'm, yeah. So that's when and like the more we read, and then that last chapter with the porcelain dolls and all that, I mean, I guess I can tell everyone here why that's such a big deal to me is because my number one fear, I think, is dolls. It's like, I know it probably sounds stupid, but it's just I've been traumatized in the past by the Chucky doll, and then from there on out I just never trusted dolls. And then I see movies and all of this about the dolls living and all that kind of stuff, and you know, people having this connection to a doll and then whatever, right? And so when this book mentioned a room full of dolls and started describing how they're sitting, where they're sitting, what they're doing, and then that all of a sudden they shift their eyes to look at them, this is a big no-no for me already. And like the fact that that's probably going to be a room that is mentioned a couple of times, because it sounds like it's going to be the main room, is worrying me a bit. But I guess we'll get through it.
Question: do you like Mike Brink?
Do I like him?
Do you like him as a character right now?
I think so.
I'm not too much of a fan of him.
Why?
He with I think it's like, after he met Jess Price and Tessie had discovered something else he didn't want to share. He's like, well, why didn't you want to share it with me? He's like, I'm here because I'm like the answer of all. Like, he's a little too cocky for me. At some points, it's like he thinks very highly of himself sometimes. Like, well, you guys need me. Like, that's why you guys called me, blah, blah, blah.
But that was described in the beginning as he didn't feel that way about himself. The reason he was saying that to her when they were looking through those documents is because she didn't want to share that all of a sudden. In the beginning, she called him because he was supposed to be this magic thing that he had all the answers, right? That's how she was describing him. So when she wanted to contain info, it was like, I thought I was the answer to everything. I thought I was supposed to see everything. I thought I was supposed to help solve this. And now you're containing info from me. I didn't take it as cocky. I can see where you probably did, but I took it as you already described him as this before, and now to find that answer, he needs this info, and you're keeping it from him.
Yeah, but that's like one time. Like there were 2 times that I noticed it throughout these sets. That his character just seemed a little too much for me at times. Or like I just couldn't understand his reasoning or rationale for certain things that he was doing. But that was just those first 2 instances. Yeah, I can see where you mean like he's like throwing it back like, didn't you say that I'm like this? But it for me, it kind of seemed like he was like talking himself up.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Right now, I'm kind of iffy on him. But I am intrigued as to how his mind works. Yeah. To how he's going to solve these puzzles. Yeah. While also kind of look out for someone who's following him. Yeah.
I had to look up what year this book came out in because the fact that it was a Tesla that was following him, I'm like, what the fuck? What year are we in that there was a Tesla?
And they were talking about COVID vaccinations. His vaccination card he had to show when he entered the...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then that's where I found it was 2023. So I was like, okay, all right. Yeah, it makes sense. But it felt weird seeing all those recent things in a book that I was not, like, I went into, like, completely blind, not even knowing that. And to see that pop up, I was like, oh. I think that feeds into my fear of horror stuff more when I can relate to things in it,
because it's in our time period.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, this could happen when it quite possibly probably cannot. Right, but my brain thinks, hey, this will happen to you tomorrow. And so now Teslas are going to be behind me, and I'm like, well, that's it.
Yes, you have uncovered a puzzle that you should not have.
Yeah, my bad for doing Wordle. So far, chapters have me intrigued. But that's about it. It's a good storyline so far, but I see this going downhill. But we'll see.
I am also on the same page. I'm kind of iffy. I already have some of my reserves against like the main character, how this is playing out so far. I think the main thing that's keeping me intrigued is what happened in that house, what's going on with Jess Price, why is she talking, the puzzles. That part has me very intrigued. I think just the way Mike Brink is interacting with Jess Price and that stuff is making me a little hesitant, especially how he is, like his character. But maybe I just did misunderstand it. I don't know. But I guess we'll see more with like the upcoming chapters. I do feel like maybe this is going to have a strong first half and not so much the second half. That is my that's how I'm feeling right now.
I have the feeling it's going to be a rushed second half.
Yeah. Probably.
Just from the vibes already. It's like you're trying to set up all this I don't know, events. I don't know. You were going to have a lot to like explain, and it's probably, this feels like one of those that is going to get everything closed off, but in a bad way. Like it's going to rush to get all these answers out, and it's not going to present them well.
Yeah, I do feel like we're going to have a lot of loose threads at the end of this book. Like they're not tied in together. It's going to be done. It's going to be complete. We're going to know the outcome. I just feel like there may be some small plot holes throughout the way. Yeah. I will say the pacing is pretty fast.
It is.
It's not very slow. It goes at a good pace. We're understanding what's happening.
I just don't see the need to separate chapters into like 3 pages. I feel like some of these could have been together, except for the ones that are separated by like dates. But
I think that's more of a a writing style.
Oh.
Could be. Some people don't mind having like 2 or 3 days in one chapter. Other people like to have one chapter be a day or an event as it goes.
Yeah.
So I
Makes
think it's
sense.
just more of a writing style.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has 67 chapters,
Yeah.
but they're not very long.
Yeah.
I think there was only one chapter in here that was the longest, and I think that was either 17 or 18, the one he talked about his traumatic about his father dying and everything he did afterwards. I think that might have been like the longest, but
There's probably like 8 pages.
yeah,
Yeah.
not even that long. So yeah.
All right. Well, I think that does it for this first one. Next week, we are going to cover chapters 20 through 32?
36.
36. 20 to 36. I'm assuming we're going to get through a lot in those chapters, too, just because of how
Yeah.
this looks like it's going. So we'll see if that's where we start losing the path. But
The what?
the path, like if we start losing,
Yeah.
like going into 5 different stories or 5 events or whatever. We'll see.
I'm really hoping that this keeps it together because it has that nice thriller element and mystery.
Yeah.
Mystery and thriller element to this book. So it's keeping me intrigued. It's keeping me hooked. I just need it to be executed well.
Yeah.
But I really do think we might be heading towards some sort of cult, whether that be religious or crazy cult.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll find out, and then I am predicting at least a rant in the next episode. I don't know from both, or at least just one, but I am predicting a rant. So we'll see.
Possibly. I do feel that brewing too.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something whether it's this episode or the next. And then there's also going to be one in the last one, I feel like. So there's going to be 2 total rants. But I don't know if it's going to be in the second section or the third one. And then for sure in the summary. But we'll see.
That's brewing.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.